Hello, and welcome to Math with Asna. In this lesson, we'll talk about lines in the coordinate plane. We're going to introduce lines in the coordinate plane. We'll talk about the different equations for lines and the slopes of parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Now, hopefully you're familiar with all of these types of equations. Remember, the slope is the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change. You often see the slope formula as y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I tend to write it in this notation. The triangle here is called a delta, and it essentially means the change. So the slope is the change in the y values divided by the change in the x values. Both of these equations will give you the same results, just two different ways of writing it. We have the slope-intercept form of an equation, y equals mx plus b. M is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. Standard form, ax plus by equals c. A, b, and c have to be integers, which means no fractions, and a has to be a positive number. So we want integers, we want a to be a positive number. Point slope form, this is my favorite form. It happens to be the easiest one to use. y1 and x1, those are points on the line, any points on the line. And m is the slope. When you have parallel lines, they are lines that never ever intersect. So I think about on a graph, if I had two lines that never intersect, and I was trying to find the slope, so I would get the change in y and the change in x. I could do the same thing on the other one, the change in y and the change in x. If the lines are parallel, they're going to have the same slope. The change in y and the change in x will give you the same ratio. So the slopes of parallel lines are always equal. For perpendicular lines, the slopes of perpendicular lines will always be opposite reciprocals. Opposite reciprocals. How do I find an opposite reciprocal? I would do two things. Number one, flip over the fraction. Number two, take the opposite. A reciprocal of a fraction is when you flip it over, and the opposite of a number is where you add a negative. So 2 would become -2, -2 would become +2. First example, what is the equation of the line parallel to the line given by this equation, which passes through the point 0, -3? Write your answer in standard form. I have the equation of the original line, and I have a point. Let's just start off with that original line. The equation is y equals 3 over 2x plus 5. This is the current slope. If I want the line parallel to that, I know that my slope has to be the same. So the slope of the line parallel is going to also be 3 over 2. I have the slope, I have a point, which means the equation that I should be using is point slope. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. You're welcome to use slope-intercept form to start off, but if you've got the point and the slope, it would be easier to just start off with this form. So y minus -3 equals the slope 3 over 2 times x minus 0. I want this in standard form, and I can do that using some algebraic manipulations. So first thing, I'm going to change that minus to a plus. X minus 0 is just x. This becomes 3 over 2x. Standard form, I want x and y on one side, and I want the constant on the other side. I am going to subtract y from both sides. I also want integers as my coefficients, and I want to make sure that x is positive. That's already positive, so I don't have to worry about that. But to get rid of that fraction, I'm going to multiply everything by 2, and I'm going to continue it on over here. 6, because 3 times 2, equals 3x minus 2y. If you don't like the way this looks and you want to have it so your variables are on this side, that's totally fine. So double check that you did it correctly. The variables are on one side and the constant is on the other. That's good. The x value is positive. That's good. And I do not have any decimals or fractions. Good. So this is my answer in standard form. Now we've got the line perpendicular to the one given by the equation 3x plus 2y equals 4, and it passes through the point 1, 2. We want to write our answer in slope-intercept form. 3x plus 2y equals 4. I want to use this equation to get the slope of the perpendicular line. But when I have an equation written in standard form, I can't easily find the slope, which means I need to manipulate this a little bit so that I can get the slope. 3x plus 2y equals 4. I'm going to change this so that it is in slope-intercept form. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. I get 2y equals negative 3x plus 4. I'm going to divide everything by 2. Y equals negative 3 over 2, x plus 2. This is now in slope-intercept form. And I can take out my slope. The slope of the line is negative 3 over 2. I want the opposite reciprocal. Remember, for perpendicular lines, you want the opposite reciprocal. So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to drop the negative. The opposite reciprocal of negative 3 over 2 is positive 2 over 3. Now, I've got the slope of my perpendicular line, 2/3. I've got a point, 1, 2. Once again, I'm going to use point slope form. Y minus 2 equals 2/3 x minus 1. I want my answer in slope-intercept form, so I'll start off by distributing that 2/3. And then I want to get the y by itself. I'm going to add 2 to both sides. And 2/3, negative 2/3 plus 2 is 4/3. So my answer is y equals 2/3 x plus 4/3. That's the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. If you learned something, please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more videos.